Hello, everyone. Welcome to one of our workshops. So today we have with us Stephen Puri, and so I'm just going to give the stage to him.
Okay. I'm going to talk to you guys about flow states, and I think you can see my screen. What we're going to do is I will tell you some information about flow states and why they might be helpful for you for about 15 minutes, and that should leave 15 minutes for any of your questions. So let's go. First question I'm going to ask, I can't see you guys, but I'm going to assume the answer is probably yes, which is how many of you get distracted while you're working? In a United States survey, it's about 90% or higher, right? And those distractions can be social media, they can be your brother coming in the room, they can be, email, a lot of things. So flow states can be the answer to that kind of distraction, and I'll explain why. A flow state is when you're deeply concentrated to the point where you kind of lose track of time, and it's you and the work, whatever you're doing. Some people call it being in the zone. Athletes talk about it a lot, like Michael Jordan and some baseball players and stuff. They just talk about like when you get in that place where it's just you and the ball. You're not even thinking about the crowds in the stands or the scoreboard, but you're just in flow. So that exists for a number of different disciplines. And that's what can be interesting to you, because it can help you when you're studying, get your work done a lot faster. And that's basically why I'm here, is to show you some techniques where you can get into that state where you're so absorbed, you sort of like lose track of everything around you and you get done really quickly. So that said, let's advance. So this guy, he's Hungarian, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. He just, matter of fact, died last year. He's the guy who named this thing. He came up with the term flow state because he said it felt when he was talking to these high performers, whether they were artists, athletes, entrepreneurs, that they all described the experience as being almost like being on a river where you just sort of flow along with it, and there's a movement in the universe. There's an energy that just carries you along. So this is a great quote of his. He said, the best moments in our lives are not the passive, receptive, relaxing times. They're usually if your body or mind is stretched to its limits in a voluntary effort to accomplish something difficult and worthwhile. And we're going to unpack what that means, because there's a lot in there, but that's kind of the core of this, of how you get into it. So there's been a ton of research into flow recently because, there's so much distraction. And I'll tell you, a bunch of my friends work at Instagram and TikTok, and their entire jobs are just figuring out how to tune all of the notifications to make sure that you stop what you're doing and you open their platform. So that said, it may be as you get older, you'll be on Slack more or Discord, or, depending on what your particular distraction is. All of these platforms have people who are designing them to be distracting to you, because that's how they get your attention, and they sell your attention to advertisers. That is the business model for Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, go down the list. All these free platforms make money because they sell your life, right? Flow states are a way to fight back and say, you know what? I'd rather get my work done in 1 hour instead of 2. I'd rather have that extra hour to do whatever the hell I want, not just, click around on Insta and, go to bed frustrated. So let's talk about ways to get into flow state. So one important thing is that focus comes from being engaged in an activity you love. And the more you train, the more you can slip into it. Now, you may have a lot of different courses you're taking, and you may be more interested in math than English, or more interested in poetry than science, or things like that. But as you develop this muscle to get into a flow state, you'll find that it becomes easier and easier to do. And flow states have this feeling of like transcendence, where you can focus on one thing at a time, which is called monotasking. And you can accomplish that thing in a shorter amount of time than if you switch around between tasks. Multitasking that some people talk about is a myth. We've found that our brains don't actually multitask, like work on multiple things at once. What really happens is you work on one thing, you interrupt yourself, your brain switches over to another thing, has to remember where it was, works on that, stops, then switches over to another thing, has to remember where it is. And it takes a lot of cognitive energy to do that, which is why it's slower. So something that's interesting is this guy, Csikszentmihalyi, he originally became interested in painters. And this is obviously, Pablo Picasso here. And he said, it's interesting how they can go an entire day or work through the night without remembering to eat or to go to the bathroom or something or rest, because their attention is so focused on the task ahead of them. And this is related to some work that was done before Csikszentmihalyi, which is Abraham Maslow. If you guys have ever heard about Maslow's pyramid of needs, he had another concept that was called peak experiences. Flow states is basically an evolution of the writing that Maslow did on peak experiences, about how when people get to their peak experience, they're hyper productive and they're also happier. So for Maslow, getting into that meant being fully dedicated to your craft, whatever it may be, painting, being a basketball player, doing your math homework, winning the science fair, whatever that could be. But there was something about happiness and this state that were highly correlated. So what is interesting now is whether, it is a poet with his poem or an architect with a blueprint, or you guys want to be engineers and you're coding, is people found you can train to be in a flow state, and it's no different than any physical exercise, right? Proficiency and mastery come with repetition. So that's a really key part of this, is if you set aside time every day for 2 weeks and say, you know what, from 5 to 6 p.m., I'm going to block out all my distractions. I'm going to focus on one task, and I'm going to, get into this transcendent state. Each day over those 2 weeks will become easier and easier and easier, and you'll find you're working faster, getting more time for yourself, which is really, kind of what we all want. So we're approaching the end of this part of the presentation. I wanted to summarize some things about flow states. And if you guys want, I'll share this with the organizers of Katie Hacks if you want to read this slide on your own. So don't worry about copying it down, okay? Which is, this is where research has left us. In a flow state, you have a clear goal that's challenging but attainable. And by that, it means like challenging, it requires you to actually do work, to think, but it's attainable. It's not, I'm solving cold fusion, it focuses your attention. There's a reward for that, which is either, hey, I got all my work done, I have extra time to go, play Fortnite or whatever it is you have to do. But that there is, in and of itself, this happiness comes from achieving it. In a flow state, you lose self-consciousness, which I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but it's a wonderful time when you look up and you realize, oh, I wasn't really thinking about the world around me. For the last 45 minutes, I was just focused on this thing, which is sort of like number 5 here, loss of a sense of time. You often look up, like an hour's gone by, it felt like 15 minutes to you, and you're like, wow, I got everything done. It feels really good. This is basically why my friend and I started a company about flow states. Something that's also helpful with the flow state is that the activity gives you feedback. It's not something where you're like doing a piece and you're mailing it off to Geneva and getting results back in months. You know what I mean? It's, you get it done, you solved the problem, or you wrote the essay, you finished the short form questionnaire, whatever that thing is. And during this period of time, sort of the last 2 are, you kind of forget about your physical body. You're not itchy, scratchy, you're not thirsty, hungry. For that period of an hour, 2 hours, whatever, you're just super focused on the task. And this is something that, came out of that research on Picasso. It's like, how can you do this? He's like, I don't really care about it. I don't even think about it. I'm just creating this amazing art. And like my entire attention is caught up in that. So one more aspect, and this is something that Ulf and I incorporated into our app, is after Csikszentmihalyi did his work, people found there's also a high correlation with music and flow states. That often there's a certain kind of music that helps people get into flow state. And for this reason, in our app, we created 150 hours of custom music that all fits this same profile. And there was a neuroscientist named Charles Lim at Johns Hopkins University back in Baltimore, and he used a functional MRI machine to examine the brains of musicians and freestyle rappers and stuff like that. And what's interesting is he found that this phenomenon was common to them in their flow state, which is their prefrontal cortex kind of shuts down. It's like it stops trying to be the master of your being, and it lets you just be. And that creates rap, that creates jazz, that creates flow states. So the research that he did said it seems like music that's 60 to 90 beats per minute, that's somewhat ambient background, it's not vocal, it's not in your face, that really helps people get into their flow state. So we offer that to you in case that's helpful for you. And you know what, if your jam is like, you got to listen to Drake, or you got to listen to Doja Cat, whatever, and that helps you, do it. But if you want to apply scientific best practices, try some of this music that's in that zone. It takes usually about 20 to 22 minutes from research to get into a flow state. So don't expect it to happen in like 5 minutes, but if you listen to the music, you focus on one task, you block out notifications and distractions and all that, in less than half an hour, you may achieve that state of transcendence where you're just blowing through your work and like getting done. And then finally, the last thing I want to talk to you about is other effects of flow states. Like, why do this? Yeah, get your homework done faster. You're in a coding competition, code with more focus and get that done earlier so you can QA it. But it's also a sense of well-being. People who get in a flow state, they feel less overwhelmed. They're less stressed out. They're less tired. It really builds this cycle of goodness, of health. For me, I'll tell you, I do yoga every morning. And that for me starts my day. In 1 hour, I get into this weird flow state of repeating these motions where I know I'm really good, but it's still challenging. And it sets my whole body chemically in a really happy state. So when I have my morning meetings with my staff, like I'm already in a great place. And I value that sense of well-being, that sense of health. I think, many of you guys may experience stress and feelings of overwhelm. Flow states help with that. And simple things you can do to stay healthy, just stopping to breathe, reminding yourself to breathe deeply, or to stand up every 20 minutes, 30 minutes, focus your eyes on the distance, things like that. And that's, we built that into Centered, which is, the platform that I created. So that said, I hope that from this talk, you guys either have questions or there's something you can take away that'll make your life better. The reason we made our app free was because we believe the world needs it. We have too many friends that work at these companies that make the distractions that stop people from doing their work. So that is our hope, that, people get less stressed, less overworked, less overwhelmed, get their work done sooner, have more time to have fun. I will be quiet now and I will listen to questions. Is anyone out there?
Hello. So, do you have any tips for people who have like focusing issues like ADHD or something like that?
Yes. And one of the biggest groups of people that use our app called Centered are ADHD and neurodivergence. Because the way we designed it is it blocks notifications. So while you're running Centered, you don't get DMs, you don't get tweets, you don't get, text messages, you don't get email notifications, any of that. And it creates like a bubble around you that makes it much harder for an ADHD or a neurodivergent to see that shiny thing that pulls them off track. Then the music that surrounds you sort of fills the bubble in with a nice ambient, happy kind of feel. So my advice to you is, whether or not you use Centered, is, put your computer in do not disturb, put your phone far away from you, and listen to music that doesn't distract you. No vocals, 60 to 90 beats per minute. It's all the stuff that we offer for free, but you can create it on your own if you want to do it that way. Does that answer your question? Oh,
Yeah, that's super helpful.
Someone asked, is it a web app? I'll tell you, we are launching our new version in about a week, version 5, and it is a desktop download. And the reason we made it a desktop app is it runs super fast, it's super smooth, and it'll be available probably end of this week or beginning of next week. So if you want, I'm more than happy to tell your organizers when that's available. And there is a pro version where if you guys try the free version and you're like, we want to try the pro version, just let me know and I will set your accounts to free forever. You guys can have like the pro version for lifetime, because we want to support you. Like, your generation is going to do the great things that saves the planet. So please let me know if you like the desktop version next week. I'll give it to you for free, the pro version.
Wow, that's so cool. Thank you for that.
Sure. We are here to support you. Like, your generation has important stuff to do, And it's not, like, I always joke, no one's going to cure cancer scrolling around through viral videos,
Right.
Okay, so Victoria asked me, what do you think is the most common mistake people make when they try to focus? It is believing that these distractions are not powerful. Because I'll tell you, there are billion-dollar companies that are paying the smartest people in the world to figure out how to distract you. So big mistake, keeping your phone nearby. It is like candy. That phone is sitting there, and as soon as you encounter something where you're like, oh, it's kind of hard, it's so easy. Just pick up your phone and look at it, and then you see there's a text message, and then there's like a tweet, then there's like a DM on Insta, and then you're in Snap. So big mistake, don't keep your phone anywhere near you, right? That's probably the number with students, because I do a lot of hackathons and stuff. That's probably the number one distraction that they report is the phone's just too close and it's too easy to pick it up. Okay, what else do we have? Don't be shy. I don't bite. Is anyone there? Hello? Okay. Ella, what do you think about taking useful breaks? Really, really good idea. And I'll tell you, there is a technique some of you may know called the Pomodoro, which is a 25-minute work session and then a 5-minute break. And you can adjust that a little bit for whatever works for you. We, have done the research and have read the research on how effective breaks are for recharging your productivity. So there are a couple things to know. One thing is your brain peaks about 90 minutes into your work session. So somewhere around 90 minutes is to 120 minutes, like an hour and a half to 2 hours, is where you really need to take a longer break because your blood glucose level is kind of depleted and it's harder to continue to focus, right? So there's that sort of overall session length. And then within that, there's like, okay, should I stand up, go get a glass of water, like move around, do something every 30 minutes? Yes, a great idea. And matter of fact, in Centered Pro, you can set that however you want. And your coach, we have these AI coaches that you can find. You guys may know on TikTok, That Relatable Student, or Student Life 101, Fernando Solente. There are a bunch of student influencers who are coaches. So when you use Centered, their voice will be the one that welcomes you. It's like, okay, let's have a great flow session. Like, oh, congrats on getting your work done. And they will encourage you to take breaks. They'll be like, hey, it's been 25 minutes. Why don't you take a break? Get up and get some water or, stretch. So big fan, Ella, big fan of taking breaks. It's healthy. It helps you work better and reduces your stress level. Okay, what else do we got? We've heard from Sarah, Victoria, Ella. What else do we got? What was the process like creating the app? Oh, that's a very nice question. So my buddy Ulf was actually the one who suggested to me we should do this. And he is a vice president of engineering at Postmates, the delivery company. And he said, I'm wasting my life. I'm like here collecting a paycheck, delivering food around town, kind of thing. And he said, I want to do something more meaningful. And I think this whole crisis of attention should be addressed. So he and I spoke for a few months and came up with this idea. So the first step was agreeing what the problem was. And for us, the problem was so many of our friends were getting rich working at these companies that basically were designing stuff to steal your life and just sell you to advertisers. So we're like, we should do something that's almost like magic that you can like get your life back. So once we did that, then we thought we should do some research. We read a ton of these books. A lot of them are referenced here, like Cal Newport's Deep Work and James Clear's Atomic Habits and Mihai Csikszentmihalyi's book on flow. And we realized that they all kind of said the same thing. They were like, you should monotask, you should take breaks, you should time box, you should assign to yourself, you know what, this task should take 45 minutes. And we'll give you a little counter in Centered so you can see how you're doing, a little progress bar. So the second step was learning about the research that was done. First step was defining the problem. Second was doing the research. Third, we designed the solution, which is, hey, we think if you had this little app and it ran, it showed you your tasks, you put in how much time it's supposed to work, it played music, it had a coach, that would happen. So we engineered that, and then we've just been refining that. We give it out to users, we get feedback, we keep trying to make it better. I hope we are. And that takes, it's been about 2 years since we started. So that was kind of the process, was defining the problem, agreeing on the problem, defining it, doing the research, and then designing the solution and putting it out into the world and just keep engineering. I hope that was helpful, Melanie. Nicole, is it harder to enter flow state when you're under pressure? E.g., when you're taking a test or trying to Yes, it absolutely is. That is so true. And what's interesting is Mihai Csikszentmihalyi was first interested in flow states because of artists like Picasso that just had tons of time on their hands. They're alone in their studio, no one's bugging them, right? What is interesting is once he started studying athletes, then it was like, these guys are under tremendous pressure. They've got, bunch of other guys on the court, they're trying to steal the ball, or on the field, they're trying to steal the ball for them and hit them. Yet somehow these top players, LeBron, Michael Jordan, whatever, like they get into their flow state. So you were absolutely right. It is harder to get a flow state when you are under pressure. However, it is possible. And my suggestion to you is try it at home, do your homework, and you'll become good at it. It's sort of like, if you do practice like shooting baskets on your own at night until you're good, then you start playing with other people and you already have kind of the skills of how to shoot. That's my best advice for you. I hope that answers your question. And if I didn't answer anyone's question, please just text me another follow-up and I will answer it better. How's that? Ooh, I think Elvin asked another question. Elvin. Oh, you're right. It scrolled off my screen. Yeah, thank you so much. Elvin, what do you think is a good balance between being productive and doing things for your leisure? Okay, so this is not a question I can really answer for you, because if you, let's say, for example, you're carrying a full course load and you're also the editor of your high school paper, and you're also on the football team, and you're also doing science projects, like you make that decision for yourself, like how much productive time do I want to have and how much leisure time do I want, right? So in this regard, what I can tell you is think about your mental health, figure out how much time you need to be goofing off, which we all do. I do it too. Like I run a company that's literally about getting your work done. And I know I like to have like half an hour at night when I can just, me and my girlfriend can just chat and like do stupid stuff. So it is not about running yourself into the ground, but it's a personal decision about how much leisure time do I want? And then you can apply a flow state. So if you say, okay, well, I have 3 hours of work done tonight, can I do them in 2? And, use centered or use your own technique, whatever it is, and go for that. And then have that time that you allocate to leisure. Okay. And Nicole, thank you for pointing out I missed Elvin's question. That was my mistake, and I've made my little window larger so I can see my whole chat. Okay, what else do we got? Vincent, I haven't heard from you yet, I don't think. Do you have anything that I can help with or any answers I can give you? Or Emily, I don't think I've heard from you yet. Or if we're good, we're at 27 minutes, we can also wrap, whatever you guys would like. I'm here to help you, so just tell me how much you want.
Yeah, before we wrap up, is there anything else you would like to tell us about your app? Like any features, any special?
That is so, Ella, that is so nice of you to bring up. I'll tell you, we made it free because we want everyone to have access to their flow state. And in about a week's time, when you download version 5, it's super simple, where you sign up with your email or Google or Apple, whatever you want. You can pick a coach. We have like 50 coaches. We have student coaches, we have engineers, we've got some famous people on there. And that'll be the voice that coaches you along, and you choose your music. and then boom, you start working. There are a bunch of features you can enable. Like a lot of people enable a feature for do not disturb. So as soon as you press play and your coach talks to you, hear the music, your computer will also be in focus mode. So you don't have to go to separate settings and try and set that up. We'll do that for you. You can enable all this stuff. If you go into settings, you can enable task estimates. If you decide, oh, I want to, assign times to my task, you can capture your tasks in there. It's super simple. You can get working with just choose a voice you like, choose a coach and choose music, and you're working. And then you can add on a lot of stuff to it. And as I mentioned, anyone who digs it, I will give you the pro version for free. Just send me the email address you signed up with, and I will go into the back end and give you pro for the rest of your life for free. We want you to be productive.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think I'll definitely check it out because like I have a lot of like productivity apps on my phone, like Forest and stuff like that. I haven't stuck with any of them for a long time, so I think I'll definitely look
Yes.
into Centered.
And just be clear, this is an app you run on your desktop. So it's on your laptop computer or your desktop, because we actually help you work. It's not so much like something you run on your phone. I mean, you can, but it's not really optimal. I think most people actually do their homework on their laptops, right? Or their Chromebooks.
Right, right.
So
Yeah, even better.
There you go. And if you guys have any questions, you'd have my email address. I'll happily address your questions. If you find bugs, whatever it is, we're in this together. We want to make you happier, less stressed, get your work done faster. And you tell me how I can help with that, okay?
Thank you, Stephen, for coming and devoting some of your precious time to our Katie Youth Hacks contestants. And thank you everyone for coming to this workshop. Yeah.
Okay. It was great to see you guys. Take
Thank
care.
you.
You.